ahead and call the Carver Heights Montclair Area Community Redevelopment Agency meeting to order. It is Monday, June 9th. Please stand for the pledge and the invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight. We ask that you give us wisdom to make the best decisions for the city of Leesburg. In your precious name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move to the approval of the minutes from the December 16th, 2024 meeting. We can get a motion or
motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. Seeing none. Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Alderman?
Yes.
Commissioner Murray?
Yes.
Chairperson Reisman?
Yes. Would someone please introduce 3A to be read by title only?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
Resolution of the Carver Heights Montclair Area Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Leesburg, Florida, approving home improvement grant award agreements for 19 recipients in the Carver Heights Montclair Community Redevelopment Area and providing an effective date.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a move for approval and a second. Discussion? Any staff discussion? Any public comments? All right, seeing, yes, ma'am.
I'd like to say
yes,
something,
ma'am.
please. I'm very happy to see the residents here tonight, and I am excited about the second rollout for the home improvement, excuse me. I would also like to say I'm hoping that we will be able to add additional people on as they continue to put in applications. And I don't know what the process will be as far as adding them to come back in to do a vote. Is it based on how many were received, or how would it happen?
No, I'm pretty sure with this round of grants, there's nothing left as far as an allocation until next fiscal year, because we pick up some from the previous year. Those who applied who didn't get funded last year, they got picked up. Then we picked up some new ones. If there's any funding left over, we can run those individually and bring it to you as they come in. So kind of first come, first serve until the body resets the funding source, which then would bring in a new round of funds starting October 1.
Okay. And I would also like to make sure that all of the residents are aware of the process of the voting that has to be done, because I've got tons of call wanting, where are we? We got our approval. When will it start? So just want to make sure if you could explain that process.
Yeah, pretty much after, and assuming that all the grants are approved here in the next minute, they're ready to go right after that.
And for the record, far as calls that I've been receiving for the east side of town, we have no funding for that. So I just want to make sure that people understand that on the east side, there's no home improvements that have gone on from this year or last year because of no funding. Just want to be sure that everyone understands.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other?
Well, I just want to clarify that the funding is coming from the CRA. It's not a general fund issue. So I just want to clarify that. And this is coming from the west side, the West CDC. Okay.
Montclair.
Versus the other CDC just doesn't have the money right now.
Yes.
Any other commissioner comments?
Yes, one. I was just looking at the number. It's just off by a digit where it says budget variance. I think it should be 56046. This is just something else, just adding up the numbers, and I noticed that
Where do you see that on the staff report?
right here on this page. Right here. On that side.
Let me see
The budget variance number.
Yeah, the memorandum. Okay, let me look at that real quick.
I think that's all.
It's just a dollar. I was just saying.
Yes, it's a type.
That's
yeah.
all. I figured it was a typo. And just for me helping me understand, I see that the areas that were represented mostly in this in the list of 19 was from Carver Heights and Woodland Park area. And I was wondering, were any areas targeted or have been identified out in Montclair for needing home improvement grants?
The answer, yeah, if it's in the CRA box, that's what we targeted. It's eligible. That was the pamphlets, that was the information, that was the advertising.
So what I'm saying, so they have to apply.
Yes.
They have, okay. So we just need to make sure that people out in Montclair are aware of this going on, because I know there's areas out there that need assistance.
Sure.
So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And I said CDC, I meant Carver Heights, Montclair, CRA is funding this, and then, but the Pine Street or the other one does not have the money. I just want to clarify, it's not the CDC.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? One last time, any public comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Alderman?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell? Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Chairperson Reisman?
Yes. All right, roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Berry?
I'd also like to ask if if the commission could get an update on, as we move along with the project for each home. I know that we have, we've done that in the past, but this time I think we have more on board so that we can just get a report to know where we are and what phase the next houses will be and move forward that way.
Commissioner Connor? Commissioner Alderman?
None?
Commissioner Connell?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Berry?
Nothing tonight.
Chairperson Reisman?
Nothing tonight. And with that, can I get a motion? City manager items.
I know, I'm not on roll call, but just because it affects the CRA, we are going through a slew of air conditioner breakdowns in and around the city. We've had the AC breakdown at the police station. We've had the AC breakdown at the library. We've had the AC breakdown at the, whatever we call next door, the MOC or Municipal Utility Building. And we had the AC breakdown at the Resource Center. All of the, and there's 2 units, I think a 12.5 ton and a 15 ton at the Resource Center. And so they're commercial size units. The repair on that's $137,655 to put in new AC, and we're putting in trans. So hopefully that will help us with maintenance and fix it in the future. We're doing that as an emergency expenditure for obvious reasons. So that'll come back to you formally for approval. So the reserve monies that are in the CRA is what will pay for this. It's an eligible expense in the CRA because that's a building that's in the CRA and was built with CRA funds. So it's an eligible expense. So that's underway. So there's about $750,000 reserve in the CRA that does not include the money that you just spent tonight. So after you made this expenditure that you just did, there's still about $750,000 left in that fund. So the 137 will be coming out of those funds.
Is it time for new ACs, you think, or is it just patchwork? I mean, what are we looking at?
Don't know. The facility, the building's only 7 years old, so those air conditioning units only had 7 years of life on them, but they just got to a point to where the existing supplier wouldn't fix them. I don't know the reason. I can speculate. Probably when the speculation would be, in all honesty, when we built the facility, we didn't go with the highest grade AC, and so penny-wise and pound-foolish, but we stayed within that budget parameter. I don't have a reason for why they broke down. They're kaput, and the service supplier is not servicing them anymore because of their condition. So that's why we went brand new. The other ones, I know the police station one probably has about 20 years on it. The library one's probably about the same. So all the other ones, they're about 20 years of use on them. So unfortunately, we're getting hit all at once.
Are we pulling money out to fund those to get those replaced?
Yeah, all of the fixes that I mentioned will be emergency repair, so we can get them up and running, and then that under the emergency repair code, we come back to you and approve it post facto. And we've got monies to cover it by budget variances or reserve funds, and so the world won't end tomorrow, but there's certainly all unexpected
Yeah.
breakdowns,
It's high.
and we have some planning in the budget for that. So some funds that's why we budget some of those contingencies, so.
Okay, and Train has a maintenance program with the ones that you're gonna put in?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mayor Reeser, I
Yes.
have one more thing too. I'm sorry. I would like to ask Commission if your thoughts of the possibility of next year CRAs going away. I mean, strong possibilities. And I was wanting to ask your thoughts if we could meet, at least CRAs meet once a month going forward so that we could, readily repair to whatever might be coming. It's not just affecting this CRA district, District 1. This is affecting the entire city. Just want to know your thoughts, if you could let me know. If not, I'd like to make a motion if we can meet once a month. Not just wait until we have an issue or a problem. That way, everyone can get experience, they can understand how the process works, and the more we do it, I think the more comfortable we all will be. Well, for us, the new CRA commissioners.
I guess my reaction is, I'll meet anytime you want to meet. I mean, you can call a meeting anytime. I don't think we have enough to talk about monthly.
I
That's
think
what I
so.
would question, what,
But
Yeah.
you can call a
I'm just
meeting.
saying it's added. Well, do you have a problem with meeting once a month? Okay.
no,
Yeah,
Do you?
as long as there's
I-
an agenda for it,
Okay.
yeah.
Do we need to put it in motion, or just everybody's good with whatever decides?
I think we should have at least one initial meeting, and then maybe out of maybe that roundtable discussion, and we can kind of go from there, see what's needed. Because I was kind of interested in maybe having a meeting anyway, so that we can kind of talk about ideas of what we can do to try to improve the community, so.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
budget-
we really can't do that when we just come here to vote on anything, so.
Well, and
like-
budget talks are coming up too, so.
Yeah,
we'll
that's
be having
another
meetings of
thing.
those as well.
Yes, I mean, I'd like to talk about some ideas prior to.
So I would recommend that you, if you want to put something on the agenda, see the city manager, and he can agendize it, so we can have a discussion on it.
Are you referencing workshop, or you're talking
Yeah,
about
more-
meeting?
more like
Oh, you workshop,
so
okay.
we just discuss ideas, nothing to be voted on, just brainstorming, maybe.
Yeah.
I know Teresa had ideas, I have a couple ideas, maybe we should improve the community, so.
Yeah, so I would recommend getting with the city manager, and he can agendize those items for the next meeting we have. All right. Any other discussions?
That's it for me.
All right. Make a motion, or a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Second.
I can't make the motion, so I just,
I
oh, you
said I
did,
moved
okay.
it.
We have a motion and a second. Meeting's adjourned. Jimmy and Jay, you guys ready?
Oh, we're ready.
All right. We'll go ahead and call the June 9th City Commission meeting to order. We already did our invocation and pledge at our prior meeting. We have no proclamations, and we'll move right into presentations. So, Miss Melissa with our Employee Service Award recognitions.
We didn't even hear it. I'm so sorry. Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor Melissa Arriaga, Director of Human Resources. Always a pleasure to be here with everyone. We have quite a few employees today being recognized and some of their family members. I was able to meet some of them, so I'm so happy that they're here to join their family. So we'll start off with the 5-year. I have Maya Pease. She started with the fire department in 2020. We've really enjoyed seeing her progress, and now she's a firefighter engineer. So welcome up front, Maya, and congratulations. Congrats. Maya's here with her mother, other family members, so thank you for coming. Congrats, Maya. Next, we have our 10-year service award. So this gentleman started as a customer accounts manager in 2015 and recently became our finance director in March. Congratulations, Mr. Paul Austin, for 10 years. And his entourage. Congrats. Next, we'll move on to our 15 years of service. So this gentleman has been with the Solid Waste Division in Public Works since 2010, and we greatly appreciate his service to our residents as a solid waste operator. Mr. Sean Archie, 15 years. Congrats. Congratulations. And next, we have a police from our police department, Mr. Gustavo Escalante. He started as a police officer at the Leesburg PD in 2010, and today he serves as a lieutenant since 2024. Congratulations. Congrats, Gus. So next on to our 25-year awards, we'd like to recognize Mr. Steve Llewellyn, who's also been with the Solid Waste Division during his 25 years with the city, and he currently serves as a solid waste manager. So, and he's been in that position for the last 19 years. So congratulations, Steve. Congrats. So now we'd like to go on to 35 years of service. It's a long time, and we're so happy to recognize these employees. So Mr. Chris Atkins, he has been with the electric department during all of his years of service with the city. He currently serves as deputy director of the electric department overseeing operations and tech services. So congratulations, Chris, 35 years. Another 35-year employee. He started with the city in the wastewater division of Public Works in 1990 as a service worker, and today he serves as the maintenance supervisor, Mr. James Gentles. Congratulations. I'd also like to note that James will be retiring from the city next month in July. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, he's decided to retire next month. So ahead of time, we congratulate you and thank you for your service. And so we've saved the best for last, 40 years. Major Rock. He started with Leesburg PD in 1985 as a lieutenant. He was then promoted to captain in 1999 and became police major in 2006. So thank you, Major Rock, for your years of service to the agency and to this community.
I forgot my first writing implement that they issued. It was a chisel. Now that I've been here 40 years, I can carry paper.
The same. The same. Congratulations. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, guys. We'll move on to public comments. This section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities of praise. Please note that issues raised during this time will not be discussed in detail during the current meeting. They will be either referred to the appropriate staff or scheduled for consideration at a future City Commission meeting. Each speaker is allocated 3 minutes to provide their comments. Kindly adhere to this time limit to ensure equal opportunity for all participants and to support the efficient conduct of the meeting. Thank you. Do we have any public comments? If you're here for an item on the agenda, we'll have public comments on those. Okay, you can speak up. Yes, ma'am. If you would, just state your name and address for the record. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Michael Ann Houston. I live at 8601 East Dewey Robbins Road. And I am here to talk about all this growth that's going on that is totally crazy. I don't think everybody realizes how much of an impact you're doing to, we live in the country. Well, it used to be the country. Now it's going to be the villages. So we live on East Dewey Robbins, which is connected to Dewey Robbins, which is south of Dewey Robbins, and then East Dewey Robbins. You have already approved over 3,000 homes on Dewey Robbins alone. Now they're going to put the villages across the street from me. That is a horse riding zone. It would be like riding my horse on the turnpike when y'all are done. Nobody thinks about this. Nobody cares about this. It's just build, 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 build. And we went to the Lake County Commission meeting, and I understand, you know, the difference between Lake County's responsibility and Leesburg. And I keep hearing that impact studies are done, and of course there's no impact to the traffic, there's no impact to the environment, there's no impact to the people with every one of these studies before a project is approved. And I gotta say, that's kind of like crap. If you put 2 toddlers on a sidewalk in Leesburg and you told them go down the sidewalk, they'd go down the sidewalk and they'd have a good time. You add 50 kids to that same sidewalk, it's going to be chaos. And then you're going to do this, and then you're going to ask the county to fix the sidewalk and make it wider. If you guys approve this, you should be responsible for this. You're creating problems everywhere. We can't, they bypassed the turnpike today, and where did it go? Dewey Robbins, South Dewey Robbins, and East Dewey Robbins. We couldn't even get into our driveway today for this, and that's just with this today. Would you please stop approving all these changes in building? You have no idea how bad this is going to impact, not only today, in 5 years, in 10 years. It's like insane. You would sell your mom's backyard, I think, right now to put a condo. It's sad. We really have to stop and think about what we're doing. Nobody wants to live in LA. Everybody wants to live in Mayberry. Stop making this LA. Let the people here have a quality of life that are here now. Thank you.
Public comments? Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. Routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commissioner or staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. 1, pull the item from the consent agenda. 2, vote on the remaining items with 1 roll call vote. And 3, discuss each item pulled and then vote by roll call. Are there any items the commission would like to pull this evening? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve all remaining items on the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Burry?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Reisman?
Yes. We'll move on to 6, public hearings and non-routine items. During public hearings and non-routine items, the commission requests that those in attendance respect the process and maintain order. As such, in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, please refrain from speaking out, cheering, or applauding during these proceedings. Your cooperation helps ensure a fair and respectful hearing. I would now ask Grant if you would swear in anyone that would be speaking this evening.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. If anyone here is present this evening to speak on item 6A3, which is second reading for the Old Mill subdivision rezoning PUD, if you would please stand and raise your right hand so we can swear everyone in. All right. Do you swear or affirm that all testimony you'll give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right. Thank you all. All right, Mr. Mayor, they're all good.
Thank you, Greg. Would someone please introduce 6A, 1, 2, and 3?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
Thank you.
6A1, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately 37.48 plus minus acres, being generally located east of Radio Road and north of U.S. Highway 441, lying in Section 1, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, provided that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the City of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 5 and providing an effective date. 6A2, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the City of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain real property consisting of approximately 37.48 plus minus acres, being generally located east of Radio Road and north of U.S. Highway 441, lying in Section 1, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6A3, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning of approximately 37.48 plus minus acres from Lake County A Agriculture and R6 Urban Residential District to City of Leesburg PUD Planned Unit Development to allow for 32 townhomes and 110 single-family homes for property generally located east of Radio Road and north of U.S. Highway 441, lying in Section 1, Township 19 South, Range 25 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
You need a motion to approve?
We have a motion and a second. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dan Miller, Planning and Zoning. This project, the overall proposal is for 37.48 plus or minus acres. It's generally located east of Radio Road and north of Highway 441. It is a request for annexation, small-scale comp plan, and PUD zoning. The future land use in this case is requested to go from Lake County Urban Low to City of Leesburg Estate, and the zoning would go from Lake County A Agriculture and R6, which is their urban residential, to City PUD, Planned Unit Development. The request is for future development of 142 single-family units divided into townhomes and single-family, 110 single-family detached with 32 single-family attached, meaning townhomes, for a total of 142. Within the proposal, there is a two-floor maximum height, no other uses besides the single-family detached and attached within this proposal. 67 of those lots on the detached would be 6,000 square feet. 43 would be 7,200 square feet. Minimum house sizes are 1,700 and 1,800 for the different lot sizes. Townhouse units would be 20 feet in width with 1,400 square feet home sizes. There's a minimum of 2 off-street parking spaces for each unit, and there is some provision for additional parking in the concept plan for the attached units. Under the design and architectural standards, there will be architectural requirements under the PUD for all of the constructed units. They have a list of 5 different features that they have to select from, of a list of about 20. 35% of the property has to be an open space. There are dark sky lighting requirements in place. There's a split rail fence required where development is adjacent to this subject property. And Bahia or Bermuda grass is required instead of St. Augustine, 2 trees on each lot. There are signage requirements. The access point is currently being requested from Radio Road. And, in a boulevard-style entryway. In addition, the applicant is offering a wall which would need to be written into the PUD. Under recreational requirements, there are the requirements for 28,400 square feet devoted to a separate recreation area, which is set aside for amenities such as children's playground, trails, dog parks, and pavilions, and those kind of things. There's also a requirement for walking trails around the retention areas. Under city department responses, there were no substantive comments received back from the city departments. Lake County Public Works did have significant comments. We went over those in the Planning Commission hearing. Those included, and I'll just summarize briefly, additional left and right-hand lanes on Radio Road, along with additional right-of-way needed by the county in order to accommodate any necessary off-site improvements, a sidewalk along Radio Road, and right-of-way donation and permitting from their public works. Now, that's a summary, but there's a significant number of comments that they had. The city did receive a letter from the Lake County Commission, which basically restated the requirements of that public work, of those public work comments. And staff did go over those requirements at the Planning Commission. And again, we summarized them here just now for the record so that they'd be on the record. And also like to note that the city of Leesburg, through the PUD process, does require the developer to upgrade the roadways anywhere there is construction for that roadway, that there's an impact that meets those Lake County standards. So we fully support and coordinate at the staff level with Lake County. Under public responses, there was significant concern about this project from the public, particularly regarding access to the site and wetlands immediately south of that. Those concerns included this proposed roadway, which goes from Radio Road into the property, basically from Radio Road here to the subject property where the building would be if it's approved. The concerns included wildlife, wetlands, flooding, noise, privacy, property values, security, and quality of life. And again, that's a summary, but we had significant discussion at Planning Commission and at first reading. Staff did ask the applicant to conduct a neighborhood meeting, which they did. And both the applicant and neighbors, I believe, have presentations which they would like to make for you this evening. The school board did note that the project is subject to school concurrency review, which would come in the form of most likely of a mitigation agreement, and that to require that there are adequate stations available for the schools, for the kids at the time that the project has an impact on them. There is, of course, our standard phasing or expiration clause, which requires them to move forward with substantial commencement within 4 years, 48 months, that is, or it automatically reverts to the RE1, 1 acre per unit zoning code requirements. All of this would be required to be on city water and wastewater. The Planning Commission did recommend approval after a lengthy time of discussion, and they asked to add the following conditions for the approval. Would be the access road would be located as far to the south as possible, that a speed table with full walls on the north side of the access road, and the sidewalk would be only on the south side of the access road. If the commission chooses to approve this proposal, staff would request that these changes be allowed to be incorporated into the document. If the commission chooses not to approve this proposal, then the request would be moot anyway. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Logan Opsel of the firm Lowndes Cantor in Orlando is here to represent the case and to answer any additional questions you may have, sir.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions for Dan before we allow him to give his presentation? Sir, would you like to come up and give your presentation?
Thank you. Good evening. Logan Opsal, 215 North Yola Drive. Great to be with the commission today. I'm going to come grab the clicker. I have for you this evening a brief presentation. Appreciate Dan for outlining most of the background information. It's a bit of a recap for you as well, as we're here on second reading. But wanted to talk on some of the important points that were raised by the public and the questions asked by this body in first reading. So this is a snapshot of the assemblage. We have here 4 overall parcels. Of course, the one that we're going to talk about most tonight is the 4th being shown there, which runs east to west, which is our proposed access. Now, I will touch on the access and potential alternatives we looked at in some detail for you and answer any questions you have, but wanted to outline the various parcels and how that makes up the overall project track being presented before you this evening. So we're here tonight on 3 items, of course. What you'll note in your staff report is that this property is within the municipal planning area, which is subject of the interlocal service boundary agreement negotiated and executed between the city and Lake County in November of 2014. What the ISBA, as I'll refer to it, did was specifically contemplate areas within unincorporated Lake County, this being one of them, which would be planned to be annexed into the city for the provision of utilities. This particular assemblage of parcels is one such property that has been identified by the ISBA for annexation. A snapshot of current entitlements under Lake County. We have urban medium land use designations throughout the assemblage. Here's a kind of area map which shows a zoom out from the city of Leesburg's land use map perspective. And you see some minor areas that still have that agricultural, the remainder and bulk being R6, again within the residential medium entitlements designated under Lake County. The ask from you tonight is PUD for future land use and rezoning, which is a downzoning from a density perspective, but also allows for some of the items that were recommended by the Planning Commission and to effectuate some of the items that we've heard as a result of our neighborhood meeting relating to the wall, landscaping, sidewalk, which I will touch on. This is the city's zoning map with the subject property identified and the concept plan being shown, which outlines the 32 townhomes and 110 detached single-family lots. This is a brief comparison of the existing entitlements under the county versus what's being proposed from a density, zoning, and future land use perspective, with a note that the annexation, again, is for the provision of utilities, specifically water and sewer, per the terms of the interlocal service boundary agreement. So I want to touch on the important points and that you'll hear from, I know, folks tonight. And we had a community meeting on March 5th of this year, which we talked about the access alternatives, fielded some of the questions, comments, and concerns. A site walk was conducted on March 14th. The concerns were well outlined by Dan as it relates to there is a wetland to the south of the existing Stonegate community, which the access would go across. We have provided, as part of consideration of those concerns, a commitment to locate the access road as southerly as possible, understanding that the Water Management District will be permitting this. So we will work with that jurisdiction to make sure that road is as southern as possible from the existing residential and allow for the ordinary flow that is expected and required underneath those roadways. I'm revisiting the concept plan so you can visualize the access road, and I'll drill down on some of that a bit. But first, I think it's important to note the history of the property and historical access and how we're looking at that in terms of providing access as part of this request. There were a number, as you can see here, of old platted right-of-ways. Those have been petitioned for and approved for a vacation of those right-of-ways, so they no longer exist. We had looked through, and it is our understanding and belief and discussions with the county that there is no legal mechanism to revisit those right-of-ways once they've been vacated. And again, they have been properly vacated by Lake County. That was the first, I would say, obvious alternative that we might go down and look to as alternative access to the property. But again, those are no longer existing by the terms of those right-of-way vacations. As we all note, eyes wide open, there's wetland along Radio Road. And so there are some pockets of dry areas. One of the suggestions we heard was what's illustrated on here more or less for access. We approached the mall property and other private property owners to facilitate a potential acquisition to allow and effectuate those alternative access. That was an impossibility as we've come to learn from those individuals. I'll also note, I understand there's been conversations, with staff from residents and the mall, I guess, management. But we will confirm that we approached those sellers, both private property owners and the mall property owner. Again, we could not allow for a access through those properties which are not under our ownership. There is existing a platted access through the Stonegate community. That exists today as part of a court case petitioning the court for a easement by necessity. It's a common law remedy that allows for access to the property. And so when we think about access to the property, what services it today is what's being shown through the Stonegate community, our neighbors to the north. Goes without saying, this is not a preferred alternative from the residents or from the applicant. And so by virtue of this PUD, we would surrender that access and allow for the east to west across that skinny access parcel which is being shown. A quick note, and this was touched on in this particular case, was there are a set parameters, considerations of which a judge sitting in competent jurisdiction can consider in granting easement by necessity. There's a number of those things delineated in common law, but they are proximity to the nearest right-of-way, existing topographical conditions, site conditions. Those are the types of considerations, and it just makes walking around sense. You want the easiest, most direct access, and those were the considerations that were given by granting the current access granted through the Stonegate community. Again, not preferred by any parties. This PUD would forego that access and allow what's being proposed, the east to west access to Radio Road. Another option is a purchase of a parcel through private ownership. Again, and unfortunately, this was something that was not made available to us by the existing seller. It would also propose, just for your context, additional impacts to wetlands that run along Radio Road. And this is the one we've worked to accommodate as best we could because it's the one we actually have control over, and that's moving access as south as possible. This particular slide references another private parcel we were not able to get control of. However, what's being proposed to you as an outcome of the Planning Commission is moving our access road as southerly as possible on the parcel we do own. Now, I think just now it's a good point to acknowledge, because we're going to address it now in my response to what you hear and in your public comment. There's wetlands to the south of the Stonegate community that's on our parcel. I can appreciate and vocalize that is not preferred to put a road through a wetland. And there is quite a lot of considerations and permitting that needs to take place with the Water Management District. It has to happen. We have to work with them to get this permitted and do it right. So I just want to acknowledge, because the folks, many of which are here tonight, live in this community. They are the most affected by this topic as it relates to this project. And I just want to note that I absolutely appreciate the concern that's arisen out of this. And we as the applicant team, all we can do is work to accommodate that as best we can on the parcels that we own. And we are working to accommodate those things within our power, and working with the city, and in working ultimately with the Water Management District to permit that access road. And so when we think about this project just on a more holistic level of whether it will be developed, I don't think that was ever a topic of conversation. You can see it's fully developable, and it has certain entitlements. I think the question now before this body is, how can we effectuate, allow for the improvement of these parcels in accordance with a development program that meets city code, and that we've worked with your staff for several months to accommodate the considerations and conditions that we are proposing as part of this development program and this PUD. As part of those conversations, and Dan outlined this in his review, we would like to accommodate an 8-foot precast wall with some landscaping, and we'll conceptualize that for you a bit. It was noted in the last meeting too, and I'll note it here at the top of the conceptual renderings. Our understanding is there's not second-story homes along this road, and we showed one image that kind of showed what that would look like top looking down. I removed that slide because, again, my understanding is these are only one-story homes along this access road. But what you're seeing here, and I have just 2 or 3 of these, is the additional landscaping, and the wall would be placed behind that, the 8-foot precast wall. We removed a sidewalk that was previously part of the PUD ordinance, removed that so we could allow for additional landscaping. There is a sidewalk along the access road that's shown on the right-hand side of the screen, but we wanted to remove the sidewalk along Stonegate so we could allow for additional landscaping in the wall. So I'm gonna flip through these as we visualize those landscaping on both sides, additional landscaping along Stonegate. There is an existing retaining wall in the Stonegate community. Our proposed is an 8-foot masonry wall. We are putting that as close to our northern property line as possible. A question was previously asked, so I want to reference it again, of this in-between space and what to do with that. I would say we are open to this body's considerations and what we hear from the residents. One suggestion was allow it to maintain in a natural condition and grow as it does today. Another was who would maintain that? Our HOA would, if preferred, keep that area clear. But we are open to those suggestions as well. And this is a cleaner look of the wall with the existing retaining wall and some of the landscaping being provided. So with that, I'll turn it over. I see some familiar faces here, and appreciate you taking the time, understand how important this is to you, and I thank you for your time. I'll reserve just a few minutes to respond as appropriate, and I'm happy to answer any specific questions you have.
Thank you. Any questions for the developer? We'll go into public comments regarding this item. If you would like to come speak, you have 3 minutes, and I ask that you please state your name and address for the record. Are there any public comments?
Frank Stanfield, 33324 Iron Gate. I've been covering Lake County for 40 years as a journalist. And this is absolutely the worst zoning thing I've ever seen. It makes no sense whatsoever. Now, I'll tell you, I'm not an engineer, but if one of these slides, they didn't show the topo. okay? So there's a lot of things going on. If you go down Radio Road from the mall towards Stonegate, you'll see that there's a raised elevation for the neighborhood. So that access road they're talking about is going to have to be really high. It's going to take a lot of dirt, and there's a lot of, it's a swamp now. So you're going to talk about possible flooding and other problems. And I can't imagine living right next to that wall, which is just a hideous thing. And it's crazy. Now, the only thing worse would be if they allowed traffic through, it's a gated community. So the only thing worse would be allowing people to drive through the neighborhood, because it's got kids there. We have a swimming pool. There's a little park there, and people drive through there. And the residents probably drive there too fast as it is. But if you allow that to be the alternative, that would be horrible. The other thing is that back little access that he's talking about, that he says that's not going to be an issue, not going to do it. That was because that property owner, I think, owned that whole area at one time, and that was deeded in. He could have that little access back there. But so it's just, it makes no sense. Now, we also have wildlife. There's bears in the neighborhood this week. There's osprey, there's sandhill cranes, there's all kinds of hawks and everything else in that area. So that's another problem. Radio Road now looks like roadkill central for wildlife. So that's another concern. But it just makes no sense. And the fact that the mall and the other property owners are not willing to sell property to allow an access gives you some idea of the problems. And like I said, it would be an invasion of privacy, and it would just change the entire character of the neighborhood. And like I say, the only thing worse would be allowing people to come off Radio Road right through the neighborhood. That would just be devastating. And I can't imagine that wouldn't be tied up in the courts for years. So those are my concerns.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alan Chen, 8010 Treasure Island Road, Leesburg. And what I want to talk about on this property is there are good properties to annex and there are bad properties to annex. And I'll give you a couple examples. Liberty Preserve is a good one. We look at it, we look at the layout. It has centralized retention ponds around each block. It's relatively flat. It's not going to flood out the neighbors. It looks very good. A bad one is Silver Lake Point. We talked about that. It's still, even in the last 2 weeks, we had some rains where it was just running down the road, and you can see the big gullies cut into the dirt into the property north of Silver Lake Point. So we've been fighting that and working, with a lot of help from your city department to try to resolve that issue, and we've been also working with St. John's on that. Treasure Trove is the one we've been fighting with St. John's right now. Well, not fighting with St. John's, working with St. John's to fight against because of all the potential issues where a property has half wetlands, just slope down towards the neighbors. They're going to try to build it up. It'll be a lot of fill, take all the trees out. Again, a very bad property to develop. This one is similar to Treasure Trove. It's also a bad property for several reasons. One is you're eliminating wetlands, which Lake County is a no-no. They do not allow or would prefer not to eliminate any wetlands. In this case, you're talking about the access road, and I'm not even sure, was that access area purchased or is it by eminent domain or what to get? It sits higher than adjoining properties. So again, you tend to have runoff. They may flood neighbors to the south and to the east. I think Stonegate is higher, so that's a different issue there. And the property includes wetlands of its own. So again, not really an ideal property to develop. So all of these contribute to potential flooding of the adjoining properties. So again, maybe not as bad as Silver Lake Point and Treasure Trove that we've experienced thus far, But because we agree that, at least between, between ourselves, that it's not a very good property to develop, we strongly oppose the annexation. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Louise Chen. I live at 8010 Treasure Island Road, Leesburg, Florida. I wanted to point out on this map.
Miss Chen, can you pull the mic down a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I wanted to point out on this map that the wetlands they're talking about is actually a pond that would have to be diverted somehow. And then if you're diverting water, even through a mitigation process, you're going to be pushing that water onto a parcel that's owned by the county and by other neighbors. And the reason that they can't go through the mall property is because there's a pond here. How are you going to get through there unless there's other, you know, and that wasn't mentioned. And I want to know, were these communities notified? Were there meetings with the developer with these other ones? Because these are the wetlands. If this goes in, when you take trees out, it's going to vastly change the flood zones. It's going to change the flow patterns. And these are a mobile home park. The lots are owned by the owner, but these are individually resident-owned lots. So these could put a very, very hard impact on these, could cause a very big impact hardship for these folks there. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Sure. Hi, my name is Lisa Hayden, and I own property at 14 Buccaneer Drive, in Lakes at Leesburg, so it's an affected property over here. I'm going to read just because it'll be better for everybody, but I was disappointed not to see Lake County Commissioner Tim Morris here tonight because I think he was expecting to come, but you know, schedules and everything. But there was a letter that Tim Morris wrote, and he cited back in 2016, the property owners of this property thought that it was such an unique and beautiful and pristine property that they were offering it to Lake County for their preservation conservation fund. And that conservation fund has been reopened, and it's $50 million right now. So I think that that's probably the better way for them, the property owners that were, it was rejected, it fell through in 2016, that they should go back to Lake County and say, you know what, yeah, it's still beautiful and it's still pristine. Why don't you buy that with your conservation grant fund that they have? So that was something that Tim Morris had written about, and I just wanted to mention that because he's not here. But we are definitely asking for you to vote against annexation and development because especially the access issues. As Louise's map here shows clearly, it is going through a pond, and you're going to divert a significant amount of water, more than you would with just wetlands. The idea that there's going to be a raised road, because they have to raise it, there's no way that they're going to be on, you know, having boats go by there on that road. They're going to have to raise it and then put an 8-foot wall behind. That is going to just severely impact the property values of the people along the south end of Stonegate. I mean, what are they going to be looking at? You know, they've got a nice backyard now with a view because of a short retaining wall. Then they're going to look at a raised road and then 8 feet of wall. I would just want to say that the developer is aware of their significant problems because, unusually so, they've already put in a preemptive environmental resource permit application with St. John's. That's 236728-1. And that indicates that they are aware that there's going to be some significant hurdles. And there is no reason. This happened over at Lady Lake, a Lake County property. Lady Lake said, there's too many problems. We don't need to have those problems. They're not our problems now. They're Lake County's problems. This area is Lake County's problem. I would strongly suggest that this board, you guys do a great job, and you know that I appreciate you, that you say no to this and keep it as Lake County's problem because you don't need to take this on right now. It threatens to degrade neighborhood property values, disrupt existing communities, and jeopardize local environmental stability. Until a safe, legal, and community-compatible access solution is secured, this annexation should be denied, and I thank you so much for your patience.
Hi, Ray Hayden, 14 Buccaneer, same as Lisa, and Ray Hayden. And the main thing is real short is that wall. You saw there was a gap between the walls. Banking on my license as a licensed community association manager, I can tell you that that's going to be a problem for the HOA, both of them. We had HOA issues down in Southeast Florida, and we were able to work, respectably with our neighbors. And between the HOAs, we were able to negotiate and successfully accomplish things. But there are certain things that are just really, really difficult to deal. When you get a gap of a few feet between those walls, you're going to have significant issues with that. And as we all know, that Mother Nature grows, pretty quick. I'm already looking at grass jumping up this high with just a little bit of rain on our property. So there's going to be substantial growth between those two walls. And at some point, it's going to, because there's nowhere else for it to go and they maintain the other side, at some point, it's going to cause damage to the wall that they're going to build. That's just not going to, unless it's impeccably maintained. And, unfortunately, from my experience in watching it around other HOAs, that really doesn't happen. So that's going to be a problem for the people who are already there. Oh, and their walls are really short. They just got a short wall now. You had the 8-foot wall isn't going to be 8 feet higher. It's just going to be, it's going to stick over theirs, and they're going to have that problem with the growth and other issues. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden. Any other public comments? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Angela Chambliss. I live at 33144 Iron Gate Drive. I just want to say good evening, council members, and thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Angie Chambliss, and I'm here today to state clearly and firmly, I strongly oppose the construction of the road behind our home. And first, I want to thank Mayor Alan Reisman. Thank you for coming to our neighborhood and visiting that area to see the impact of that firsthand, and the impact that this proposed road would have on our neighborhood. So we truly appreciate your time and your willingness to listen, as well as all of you. You have all received emails from our community, and I just thank you for reading those and responding. This road is planned just 30 feet from the back wall of our homes. It is being elevated to, I think it's at 36 inches due to the 100-year flood requirement. That puts vehicles nearly eye level with our patios and our windows, completely stripping away the privacy, disrupting our peace, placing unnecessary stress on our families. But with that 8-foot wall, it's just, we no longer have a backyard. Beyond that, it will drastically reduce our property values. Many of us purchased our homes believing the land behind us was protected wetland where no development would occur. That assurance was part of what made our homes feel safe and worth investing in. I also want to point out that there was a better access point to the same property on the other side near the old radio station. That area is drier and more suitable for access, and it is owned by the same landowner. There is absolutely no reason this road needs to be pushed up against our home when a more responsible and less invasive access route, it is available. It is also important to acknowledge that the rezoning board and this council were misled by the renderings that were submitted by the developer. The images did not accurately reflect the height, scale, or true impact of what is being proposed today. That matters. Transparency and honesty must be the standard when decisions like this are being made. We are not just asking you to protect our property. We're asking you to protect the integrity of the process and the trust of the people who call this community home. Please do what is right. Reject this road. Stand with the families who believe in the city and choose a solution that reflects wisdom, responsibility, and respect. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Peter Cady. I spoke last month. I live at 33148 Iron Gate Drive, Leesburg. I have some, all I'm going to do is show you some pictures in case you aren't really aware of what this area looks like from our perspective. You can see the wall there. Can I borrow your pointer again? As I did, I was going to get my own. But thank you so much. Figure out how it works. It'll be good. Okay. So these are our homes. That's my house right there, as a matter of fact, our home. And this is the wall, and this is the wetlands back here, and this is what they're proposing to put a road right through here. Now, I guess I can change this with this thing. I haven't done this for years. This is the view from my home, and that's our wall, and they're going to put the road right down here, and then put an 8-foot wall above that. That shows it again. Another view. Here's our wall, and they're going to build it right along here, just about that far. Now, he mentioned making it as farther south as possible. Well, they only bought 100 feet. So, and it's going to take 50 feet to build the road. I mean, putting it all together, it's going to be 50 feet wide. So they're still going to be 40 to 50 feet only from our wall, even if they go way down here into the water, which we certainly don't want them to do. I mean, you can imagine this is a wetland, and when we get a hurricane, the water comes all the way up into here. So you're going to, well, you can see. See what else I have. That one I'm not. Now, this is an interesting one. This is the property that they're talking about, the road going right through here. We live right about there. And this blue is the floodplain. So they're going to build their road through a dedicated floodplain. And this darker area that's going around right here, that's the wetland, supposedly what they say is the wetland margin. Now, if you follow it all the way around, come all the way around here, there is a way that they can put, now he mentioned it, and I appreciate that. They mentioned another possibility is to have a road going right up this and going right out here. And that property, as far as I know, can be sold. And that's it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Any other public comments? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I am Angie Langley. I'm speaking on behalf of Dan. Sorry, I just had eye surgery, so he emailed this to me. I've got to put on my one lens of glasses to be able to read this email, so bear with me just a moment. Sorry. So I am representing Jim Collins from Fauché Construction. They are a site development company, so I'm just going to read you what he was going to be saying. He got a call from his wife, and his son was in an accident, so he had to leave here abruptly, so that's why I am reading this for him. His name is Jim Collins, CEO of Fauché Construction. They are a site development company located in Mineola. After being in Orange County since 1972, the family moved their business to that area in 1994. They have been in Lake County ever since and absolutely love it and would not want to be anywhere else. In saying that, we appreciate the property owners that have reached out to many local contractors, vendors, and suppliers, and us being one of those in the site development portion of this project. We have been talking with them regarding this project and couldn't be more excited to see this come to Leesburg. We have roughly 80% of our entire company employees that live in Lake County. Their kids go to school in Lake County, and a large portion of their spouses work in Lake County, or they are looking for job opportunities and housing within the Leesburg area. So having this opportunity to help develop this project means more than you know, like creating a minimum of 10% increase in new jobs for their company alone, more housing opportunities so they can live closer to where they work in the Leesburg area, job opportunities for their spouses. This would also increase their annual revenue projections of 15 to 20% just alone from this project. So they are excited to be instrumental in this project for the future and would appreciate your support for this. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak on his behalf.
Any other public comments? We're going to close it to public comments with the developer. Oh, we have one more? I apologize. You're good.
Hello, I'm Lorraine Davey. I reside at 8940 East Treasure Island Ave. I feel for you folks because my neighbors and I are living what you're going through. We're behind the Treasure Trove development that's will eminently be happening. I left South Florida, the concrete jungle, to find green, to find good people, to find peace. Lake County was going to be my home, and that's it. But unfortunately, a lot has changed. Please stop the concrete. Thank you.
Any last public comments? All right, we're going to close public comments. Would the developer like to respond to any of the comments?
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll be brief as well. Thank you for your comments and raising the issues important to you. I'll kind of take these in kind just to make sure I've covered all those. One of the points was access through the neighborhood, and we talked about that. We know that's not preferred. I know Stonegate's a gated community. When we look at this project and access, again, there is a existing width of the allowed access that exists today through that community to service this property. And there are certain code considerations that need to go into access to this project. And so what this PUD allows is to allow alternative access, but it would vacate the existing access. But I think it's also important to note what needs to occur to allow for access moving forward. And to the extent it needs to be done through a court of law, again, those prongs of considerations on proximity to right-of-way, code requirements, all of those things weigh heavily on granting access. And so this is an opportunity to remove that access through the neighborhood, which is not preferred. And the wildlife, it's absolutely an important consideration, and one mentioned in your staff report and one we've talked about in the past, both at Planning Commission and at first reading. The proposed road that you saw as part of this project is in a portion that's going to provide as minimal impacts to the wetlands as possible. Some of the alternatives that we went through, the 4 alternatives that I discussed, have proposed much greater impacts to the wetlands. Those are the same considerations that were required to accommodate when we go for our permitting before the Water Management District. And the comment was made, it's challenging. It is. We absolutely understand that Water Management District permitting is difficult. And considerations like flooding and water flow as they exist today and during a hurricane, all of those things are what go into getting permitting from the Water Management District, allowing for flow. All of those things require engineering and extensive permitting. We are not eliminating a wetland by virtue of this access road. It does have some impacts, which I just outlined, but that is not an elimination of the wetland. It's accommodating it by still allowing for access. And a lot of discussion around the wall. When we talked about the community meeting, the wall was something proposed. Stonegate's a gated community. The wall was being proposed as a way to help for additional screening of the access road and security. If the wall is something that would like to be removed, we're happy to agree to that and provide that additional landscaping that you saw if the removal of the wall would be helpful. The discussion was talked about the topo and the access road and how it needs to build up. You saw the floodplain, all of those things. I'm going to let our project engineer just speak to that very briefly. I think it'd be helpful to talk about the elevations. Chuck.
Good evening. Chuck Hyatt, 902 North Sinclair Avenue, Tavares, Florida. So I'm going to use this wall as a visual, okay? Currently out there, the elevation of the wetland that we're going through is at elevation 65. So let's assume the floor is at 65. The 100-year flood is 69. We have to be a foot above the 100-year flood at 70. So what that does is that takes the road from the wall, or the floor down here, to about right here. Okay, so that's where the road is. The finished floor of the houses that exist today at Stonegate are at 75. That's the top of the roof. So we're still 5 feet lower than the wall from the existing residence. So I just wanted to put that in perspective to you guys as far as elevation differences. So they say we're raising the road. We are. We're raising it 5 feet. We're still 5 feet lower than the wall in their backyards. So the wall, the 8-foot wall, if that was put in, is really only going to be 3 feet higher than their existing wall. So it's not 8 feet above their backyard, it's only 3 feet. But when you're looking from their backyard, you're looking at an 8-foot concrete wall. So that's kind of the visual of the wall. If you got any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer.
Just to wrap up our response, again, just want to express my gratitude for taking the time to be here. I've been through a lot of these. It's not every day that you have public comment that actually has concrete suggestions and alternatives, and I'm talking about the access road. Really appreciate that. I mean, clearly some time and consideration was put into alternatives by both parties, residents, public, and the applicant team. All we can do, again, is present to you a project that meets your code under our ownership. We have pursued alternatives to no avail. And because annexation was discussed, this, again, but when you consider this subject property, the existing entitlements, what the ISBA, the Interlocal Service Boundary Agreement, does is not look short range at how to handle these types of properties, this property, but long range. This property is designated for annexation to allow for utilities, water and sewer. That was part of an executed agreement which was adopted by ordinance by the Commission in 2014. And under the ISBA, annexation is necessary to extend utilities to the property. Chapter 171 deals with annexation in the Florida statutes. That is the main consideration in the ISBA. It actually requires sound planning, what they call efficient provision of services and accommodation of growth. Now, we're here today on these three topics, and I think we've done well to address the specific points and concerns we've heard and how we're accommodating those. And I understand that annexation, any annexation has its own challenges and unique considerations. But that's exactly what the ISBA answers. Long-range planning for these types of properties to be within the city, compliant with your code, to allow for conditions that make the best project possible. So thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any other specific questions.
Thank you, sir. I'll take this back to the commission. Any comments, questions for the Dan or the applicant or your concerns?
How many units, Dan? What was that again?
142 total.
What's that come to? What's the density on that?
Got 1,000 projects under my. It is below 3, but I forget the exact number, Mr. Commissioner. $3.78 because of the townhouses. So yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. We spoke a lot about development, and this is just an absolutely horrible location to be putting that kind of units, basically on a flag lot that has to go through a floodplain to get to. I mean, it's just absolutely, it's craziness. It might be in our ISBA, but, it doesn't mean we have to annex this. And I agree with some of the comments. It's in the county. If they want to develop in the county, they can work with the county. But I don't think we should be doing this. Just a terrible location, and access is horrible for this type of almost 4 units an acre.
I went out and walked the property. I was at Miss Chamberlain's property. She has 2 foot of wall exposed, so she can see everything over it. And with the elevation proposed, I just couldn't see having a road that close to my back door. And I think we have a right to protect that investment on those properties. So I have an issue with the current entrance. So if we have no further comments, we'll go to roll call on 6A1.
Commissioner Burry?
No.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
No.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Mayor Reisman?
No. So since the annexation has failed, 6A2 and 6A3 have also failed.
They weren't heard. They didn't fail.
They didn't fail, they weren't heard. We don't have to go to them.
Moot.
They become mute.
Yes, sir.
We will move on to 6A4. Would someone please introduce that?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
6A4. An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, vacating and abandoning a portion of the unimproved right-of-way of Madison Street located in Leesburg, Lake County, Florida, south of U.S. Highway 441 and between Lot 4, Block 46, and Lot 1, Block 47, according to the revised and recorrected plat of re-subdivision of subdivision of Silver Lake Estates as recorded in Plat Book 10, pages 66 through 69 of the Public Records of Lake County, Florida, reserving a utility easement, providing for conditions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion and a second. Dan, any staff presentation on this?
He didn't.
No, sir. Any commission comments? Any public comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Burry?
Yes.
Mayor Reisman?
Yes. Would someone please introduce 6A5?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending Chapter 10 of the Code of Ordinances relating to fire protection and prevention, to create Article 3, open burning regulations, creating Sections 10-50 through 10-52, providing for regulations and restrictions on open burning, providing for penalties, providing for exemptions, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date.
Motion to approve?
Second. A motion and a second. Any staff presentation? Seeing none. Any commission comments? Any public comments? Or you have a commission?
Yeah, just for the public, this is just going to mimic an existing Lake County policy with regards to burning. So it's not, isn't that correct, Al?
Yes.
I mean, so we're just kind of.
When is the time frame for the dry? I mean, what is the time frame for when it's considered no burning for? Is that the fall season? Or?
Yeah, like January through April, you know, is kind of typically.
Okay.
May.
Is that information provided to all the residents?
I couldn't tell you.
I mean, is it in our mail outs or anything that
As
they
far
know
as
when there's
banning
not,
burns?
Yeah, when it's not allowed.
No, we have not done that. We can do that. This year it did, we had a couple different projects. Ours, Susan Street, and a couple other ones. So, and this year was extremely dry, which was the catalyst for the ordinance.
Does it go hand in hand when there's no watering as well because of the dry? I mean, is that any?
No watering,
You know how
yard
when they put
watering
the water
separate.
ban and stuff, that's totally separate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just find it, as so many residents, I see that they're burning like all throughout, and I don't think they're aware that they should not be. That's what I'm asking. Are they notified?
Yeah, and those are kind of the catalyst for the ordinance as well, so we can have some action to stop those type of burns.
All right, thank you. Any public comments on this? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Berry?
I'm sorry.
Number 5.
Number 5, I've lost my place with my thing. I'm saying no to the, I mean, yes to the agreement to stop, to have our new ordinance. I'm sorry, I don't. Okay.
You're good.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Burry?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Reisman?
Yes. Would someone please introduce 6A6?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, excuse me, amending ordinance number 24-25 concerning the granting of a non-exclusive franchise to Tri-County Sanitation LLC and its successors and assigns, parentheses, franchisee, provided for conflict and severability and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any staff comments? Any public comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Burry?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Reesman?
Yes. Would someone please introduce 6B1?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only, please.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending the city's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 25, Section 25-292, parentheses 18, mobile food vending, providing for conflict, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you, Andy. Any staff presentation? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you're aware, there's been a significant increase in the number of mobile food vendors over the last 2 or 3 years in the city, the food trucks. Under the city's current ordinance, they are required to get a permit and meet specific standards listed on the permit. However, recently, we've had to change our policies a little bit because of the state legislature has passed an amendment to Section 509.102, which preempts food trucks and food truck regulations from local control. Excuse me. This includes licenses, registrations, permits, and fees. And it includes basically all mobile food vendors and food dispensing vehicles. So when a city's codes are preempted by the legislature, staff has to go in and adjust our codes to meet those state requirements. This is what we have found is the case with food trucks, tree permits, group homes, business tax receipts, other functions of local government that the state legislature chooses to impose on. So we are still left with a little bit of authority in that area. With that in mind, staff has rewritten the mobile vending food truck ordinance to meet the requirements of the revised statute. What the revised ordinance will do is allow 3 options if you want to have a food truck. The first would be that you have to have a letter of compliance, which is not a permit. It's simply a letter from staff saying this location meets the criteria to have a food truck. The second would be to allow mobile food vendors 2 times per year under a temporary use permit, which greatly restricts their use. And then the third would be to allow mobile food vendors in association with a special event, like Bike Fest or the Arts Festival. Those come in, we can get many of those in under that one permit. I've asked Senior Planner Max Allen to create a presentation for you. If that's okay, I'd like to allow her to give that. I know this is first reading, but it's up to you, Mr. Mayor, whatever you'd like.
Would the commission like to see this presentation? Yeah, yes,
Yes.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. Today, I'm just going to go ahead and read off my notes regarding this. We are discussing the proposed revisions to the mobile food vendor ordinance, City Code Section 25-292, parentheses 18, which regulates food truck vending activities within city limits. As mentioned, the state has preempted regulation of food trucks and hot dog carts, also known as mobile food vendors, to their jurisdiction. Thus, some changes to the code were necessary. I wanted to note that several city departments are directly involved with the regulation and enforcement of mobile food vendors, one being planning and zoning. We assist permanent and temporary vendors through letters of location compliance and temporary uses if approved. 2, the Leesburg Fire Department, who conduct fire inspections for each food truck permitted within city limits. 3, the Recreation Department, handling vendors for special events. Code enforcement ensures compliance with regulations. Since the state legislature has preempted the regulation of licenses, registrations, permits, and fees, Local governments may not require any of those mentioned regulations. Therefore, we had to go into the code and make some changes to comply with state regulations. Thank you.
Which slide? Next slide.
Let's go to slide 4, please. Thank you very much. Perfect. However, the city still has the ability to regulate time, manner, location, and require any state mandated documentation, such as insurance. So these changes to the code still allow for the city to focus in on these areas specifically. Next slide, please. Thank you. In line with state level changes, planning and zoning has 2 major goals. 1, to comply with Florida statute and adopt DBPR and Florida statute definitions into our code. 2, we want to clarify processes and requirements based on these Florida statute changes, but also for greater clarity for anyone coming in to pursue any of these avenues. Next slide, please. To comply with state requirements and definitions, we need to revise the existing process and code section, such as removing the permit fee that was previously required. Also adopt the definitions for hot dog carts and mobile food dispensing vehicles, also known as food trucks, within our code directly. And then finally add DBPR licensing requirements to city code for both the hot dog carts and food trucks. These changes streamline the permissions process and allow for cross-code consistency. Next slide, please. Thank you. To clarify processes and requirements, we will outline all the processes in the city code for staff and vendor clarity, so everyone's on the same page following the same requirements to get through the process. We will also require a copy of state mandated licenses, registrations, and insurance, verifying that they've gone to DBPR, they've gone through the correct process, and that they are following all of the state level requirements as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the 3 pathways that I've briefly mentioned, 1 would be the letter of location compliance from planning and zoning. This allows 1 mobile food vendor per property, and they may vend year-round at this 1 location. This is more of a permanent stationary kind of method. 2 would be a temporary use, also from planning and zoning. This allows up to 3 mobile food vendors per property, and they may only vend up to 2 consecutive days once per year. Finally, special events from the Recreation Department would be pursuant to Recreation Department requirements and associated event links and locations. This is when food trucks would be allowed on public property in association with a special event specifically. Next slide. Thank you. So if adopted as proposed, the code update shall comply with Florida statute and DBPR requirements and definitions. We will update non-compliant code sections, no longer requiring permitting or registration fees. We will adopt state and DBPR definitions in the code. We will clarify processes and requirements by having them clearly outlined in the code, and require copies of state-mandated licenses, registrations, and insurance for efficiency and public safety. So if adopted as proposed, we will comply with the 2 major goals mentioned here. And thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, I am available.
I do have a couple.
Yes, sir.
So are we saying that presently they can set these mobile food carts up permanently in 1 location?
Presently, that is allowed through the former permitting process. So they can choose with the property owner's permission, written and notarized.
So they're really not mobile no more?
They cannot stay there overnight. They do need to leave at the
Oh.
end of each day and then come back to serve at the beginning. So, yes, sir.
And what is the criteria where they can get set up at?
Sure. So it's limited partially by zoning, so a commercial, industrial, or planned development zoning only. This eliminates residential areas. They would also need to have an existing principal business on site, meaning that vacant properties are not permitted. This would be more like a shopping center where they approach the anchor store, they get the property owner's permission to vend in the parking lot, and then have to abide by the rest of the rules and regulations.
Okay. Thanks.
Sir.
Fran, I have a couple questions. I didn't mean to cut you off, Mike.
Yes, sir.
This is from a legal standpoint. Could our ordinance regulate distance-wise where these places could be setting up? I just feel like these mobile food vendors, I think, are in direct competition to our brick-and-mortar restaurants in town. And basically, they can just set up anywhere for all year round with no overhead. I mean, they're undercutting our business owners. Could we regulate this through ordinance on how long they could stay at one location and a distance requirement if they couldn't set up within a certain amount of a distance to a brick and mortar, say, restaurant that they're directly competing with?
Yeah, that is something that the city could do, at least with regard to the distance requirement. That's something that has been done in other locations as well. There's kind of a variety of what those distances might be. I've seen 550, 200 feet from existing restaurants. Some places might, allow some flexibility there if, for example, there's one brick and mortar restaurant that's impacted, and if they were to sign off on that, then some localities have allowed that exception, sort of with the affected business owner's permission to violate that distance requirement. But the distance requirement's absolutely something that the city could put in to kind of protect some of those existing businesses or regulate the welfare and safety and health and all of that for the community.
These mobile food vendors, I know they're becoming more and more popular, but, to me, they're mainly for special events and stuff like that, not to set up every single day and compete with our legitimate permanent businesses. And I would like to see something put in this ordinance that there is some type of distance requirement. They have to be away from one of our brick and mortar stores that they're directly competing with, unless, and I agree with Grant, unless the restaurants sign off and say they don't care. If they're fine with it, I'm fine with it. I just don't want to hurt our businesses by letting these mobile food carts set up and take their business away.
And I would just jump in too. Again, there could be a scenario where there might be more than one affected restaurant.
Sure.
Right? There
Yes.
may be multiple.
Yeah, I would
within
say
that.
any of them within that distance would have to agree to it.
Speaking to your distance, I like that, but would we have to add that a special events application would null and void that because of the downtown?
Yes, I would agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Special events this ordinance wouldn't apply when we have within the umbrella of the special events.
Thank you.
Right, exactly. And when we do special events, we exempt ourselves from certain rules.
Yes.
So Bike Fest is the classic example.
I have a question. For the Central Business District, I see where it's noted off for, but tell me, how far down Main Street does it go if we're going towards the lumber area? Is it that far or is it too far? I can't tell.
On that particular map, I believe it goes from.
Yeah.
That is the Central Business District zoning area, and it stops over at Palmetto, doesn't go all the way to Canal, and then it goes, I believe, to 9th on the 9th and Orange. And then north side, you have Meadow, and on the south side, that is, can't read, the first one south of Magnolia, right up to the trail.
So
That's actually the trail.
So for Main Street, how far down will it go past?
I think you're looking at,
The
you need to look at
library.
the historic district map because they can't go in there as well.
Yes, there are two maps
There's two
in
maps,
here.
and
One is
one's-
for the Central Business
I'm in
District.
the Central Business
And
District.
the other is the Historic
I'm in
District.
that one, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. That's the Central Business
The
District.
historic preservation map is even larger.
Okay, that's where I'm getting
And it goes
Okay.
down to Canal. It's quite significant.
Because I thought we expanded the Central Business District when we approved the apartments.
We actually expanded the future
Historical?
land use.
Okay,
Not
okay.
the zoning.
No,
So
thank
it's,
you.
It's confusing, but yeah.
So, excuse me. Go
yes,
ahead.
ma'am.
Go ahead.
One of the things that we've been finding is that a lot of these things set up overnight or on the weekends, and all we're looking for is to be consistent with the state code and have our codes very clear as to what can and cannot be done, so that when they come in for that letter of compliance, because state says we can't do a permit, that we can give them a letter of compliance or we can send them on their way. We just need to clarify it because they are setting up. Sometimes you get the stakes people sitting in different parking lots. That's not permitted. We don't want people opening up the back of their old car and trying to sell paintings and so forth, socks, whatever. We're trying to keep it kind of
So
clean.
this will cover those kind of vendors as well? Like the
It
people that
should.
set up on the side of the road and sell flowers with next to?
Yes, other types
Or
of
the rugs.
non-prepared foods, like frozen foods, such as like the steaks,
Okay.
merchandise
I thought I read
such as
that.
flags,
That's good to call out.
would be not permitted under this ordinance. I would also like to note that, thank you for bringing it to our attention, CBD and the Historic Preservation District are currently they still do not permit mobile food vendors at this time, even prior to this ordinance change. So keeping them out of the downtown and historic preservation area is consistent with the existing ordinance. That is not permitted.
Even if it's private property?
Even if it's private property, this is one of the areas identified. Yep.
I was just seeking clarification. I think you said that they now have to move, they can't stay overnight. Did I hear you say that? Now they can.
Right now, they can stay overnight.
Right,
Under
but-
the new ordinance,
They cannot.
Right, they are limited by state statute to the hours of the principal business on site. So that, let's say, if they're in a shopping center, the main business closes at 8, they would need to pack up and remove
Okay.
themselves by 8.
I mean, I'm fine with that, but I think that's going to run a lot of them off. I mean, I think the ones I see around town, they're I hate to say it, probably permanent. I mean, they don't move.
Yeah.
But I was just seeking clarification. Thank you very much.
I did have one question. Is there a way to add, if the principal property has a code violation, they would not be able to get a permit?
We can certainly investigate
Until that property comes into code compliance?
Yes, sir.
I want
I've
to
been
come
dealing with
back
code
to the
enforcement and doing
private-
ride-alongs.
For the private property, how could you tell someone not what they can't do on their property?
Sure. So that's covered under the state statutes by allowing us to regulate location. So we do that by zoning and by overlay. So for historic preservation, it would be by overlay. For CBD, Central Business District, that's by zoning. The same way we're permitting it only in commercial zonings, industrial zonings, planned zonings elsewhere. So that's covered by state statute.
Okay.
If that's an issue you'd like us to investigate,
No,
we can
I'm just
certainly-
concerned for people's mindset.
Yes, ma'am.
This is my property, I do what I please, and I'm downtown Main Street, and I would like to participate to do something on my weekend, and they're thinking it's okay to do it, so I'm just saying.
Yes, ma'am.
So there'll be a lot of communication that we would have to put out to make sure people are aware.
Absolutely, and I would just like to note that's part of why we wanted to put the process in the code, so that way everyone's on the same page. I know for me, dealing with mobile food vendors at the front counter, sometimes there's confusion on steps in the process. Thought this was a great way we could eliminate that by adopting it into code.
So we have to say no to the kids with their lemonade stands on their property.
Unfortunately, it appears so.
Question, Max.
Yes, sir.
I just drew a blank. I just lost what I was going to say.
No problem.
I mean, we didn't, was there an agreement to put a distance to?
I would be in agreement with that.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it.
Staff has no objections
Yeah,
to.
you brought up, the discussion brought up 2 points that we'll have to go back and visit. The distance from the brick and mortar and the code. If a vendor has a code issue, we need to put that, so we need to add those two prohibitions.
I know what I was going to
Yes,
say.
Did you have a?
Go ahead.
Did you have a distance that you wanted to stick in there? I would probably say 500. Is that what you would say? Is that too much? 250?
At least five, I'd say at least 500.
If
And I just pulled that because that's the.
140 yards away, I don't think that's that much.
that number is up to this commission, and we'll do whatever. If you do 500 feet, that's going to clean it out. That'll
That's
clean
what
it
it
out,
says on there.
if
I
that's
think-
what you desire.
Yeah, I would
If
just.
you do 100 feet, there would probably be some left. I mean, that's a commission decision we will respect, but.
Yeah. And I would just point out that one of the preemption areas is the state has said that the mobile food vendors cannot be prohibited from operating within the entirety of the city. So I think if we're looking at the distance requirements, we do need to make sure that there would be locations where it would be allowable so that we don't.
Yeah.
At second reading?
Well, yes, sir, we can come up with some numbers. If you like 500, you may not be happy with our numbers, but we'll do our best for you.
I want as much as we can get, but
Okay.
still comply with the statute.
Yes, sir.
So they still would have some areas to set up.
That's the point.
And that's the key. That's the key.
Because sometimes you'll have a mobile food vendor here and a couple of restaurants right around them.
Right.
And it's going to be real hard to
Like I said, I
make
want
sure.
to keep as much distance as we can, but, you know,
Understood.
but they still would have some locations in the city they could set up and meet that distance.
We can make that happen.
Thank you, sir.
I knew what my
I-
question, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
I knew what my question was. Who's the enforcement arm on this?
That would be code enforcement, and they have reviewed what we proposed and sent in their comments, which have been
My
incorporated.
next question was, do we have code enforcement that works out of shift of normal 8 to 5?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
So is there another agency that would we have to put this on the police for afternoons or evenings or weekends? I don't.
Potentially.
Yeah, because that's when the majority of these things are setting up. And if code's not working past 5, which I understand that, there needs to be another enforcement arm of this.
I have a question. Could we consider an area for the food trucks for places where that's not in our coding, that they don't have restaurants to go to during work hours or somewhere to consider?
We can look at that.
Like a
and kind
food
of-
truck row, and it's
Sure.
a certain time frame, and that way, instead of somebody trying to drive to 27 or 441 within a 30-minute lunch break, they have a selection where they can go and choose, and that way we give the food truck vendors an opportunity to make money as well.
Yes, ma'am.
So-
We're actively looking for a site to propose that, but we haven't found anything yet. If we find something, we intend to bring it to the city manager for review and to see if that's something that will work. I've been to a number of cities where they'll have an area set out. No, I was at one, it was a year or two ago. They gravelled out the parking lot, and there was parking in front, and there were about 5 or 6. And you could walk around, there was some seating. It was almost like a food truck park. And I've seen those work very well. There's one in downtown Jacksonville. I've seen them as far as Texas and different places. So we just need to find a location and see if it's going to work. And, but we're happy to do that, and we are looking.
I think that would be a great idea. That way, you give a person an opportunity to make their income,
Absolutely.
because most people are really depending on that, so most families.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions from the commission? Any public comments on this item? Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Is it Andy?
Gary Custer,
Next meeting.
8909 East Treasure Island Avenue. By doing this, you've effectively eliminated food trucks because you're only allowing 2 permits per year for a 2 to 3 day period. Did you read that? The county tried to do it, and the county ended up tabling it because it didn't work.
That's only one option for someone to avoid the overall
It was up there.
ordinance. Right, right. There's an option for someone to have that temporary permit for up to 2 times per year, or they can follow the other options.
2 to 3 days.
Right. That's a one avenue. They have special events is another, or full code compliance is another. So that's just one exception that exists to what is being proposed under the general rule.
If you invest $100,000 in a food truck and you can only use it 2 to 3 times, 2 times a year, 2 or 3 days at a time.
That's not the requirement, though. That's an option. You can get that temporary permission if you want to, or you could do a more permanent option.
On that option, what they're talking about is per property. 2 times a year
Okay.
per property.
I got you.
It's
For
not
the
for
temporary though, right?
Yes, it's a temporary use permit. You can have a food truck on your property 2 times per year if you don't want to go in and get the whole.
Right, if
whole
you don't
permitting
comply
process.
with the overall
Right, so
ordinance.
it's a temporary option.
And Dan,
It-
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, that's not a limitation on everybody, that you could only have 2 days a year. That's just an option to avoid the full compliance with the zoning code.
Well, I know the county tried to do it. The county put it up, and then they tabled it. They tried to they're trying to eliminate the idea of food trucks by doing what they were doing. You know, if you read through what the county was trying to do, it virtually eliminates food trucks. They called it the open air vendor permit. And the open air vendor permit gave you one permit, lifetime permit, for $50. Well, now they want to put you once a month, you're supposed to get a permit. You got to meet all the requirements. Food trucks are different. Food trucks have a different permitting through the state. And then it's like they said, then the county goes along with whatever the state says. If the state says they're okay, the state inspects them and everything, then it's fine. But I mean, some of the best food I've had, it comes off of a food truck. It just doesn't make sense to eliminate these people from trying to make money when they invest that kind of money in a food truck.
Dan, these 3 options, these mobile food vendor pathways, that's coming straight from Tallahassee, correct? Or is that an amendment by the city of Leesburg?
That's what we have put together. That is not specifically Tallahassee. That is what we have put together
Okay.
based on what Tallahassee allows us to do.
Okay.
That one, yeah.
Yep.
So where did this come? I thought it came from Tallahassee. This was, our staff created this?
Yes, this is staff created for the temporary use number 2 pathway, basically. Was created based on feedback from mobile food vendors coming in, speaking with staff. So the first, just to review, the first pathway is the letter of location compliance. That is the more permanent basis. They choose a property, get the property owner's permission, and then basically a zoning letter is
And they have to
released.
move that trailer or truck every evening?
Correct.
Okay, every day. Okay.
Yep, and then the second is the temporary pathway that we're discussing here, which is very limited. This is more for a specific property having a once-a-year event that they would like up to 3 food trucks at.
No, thank you for that. I thought this came from states. I was trying to direct Gary's anger to the state and away from us for a minute.
The location compliance, number 1, came out of the state because the state said you can't require permits. Therefore, we said, okay, we'll require a letter of compliance. That's not a permit. Number 3 is special events, which we do now anyway, and that wasn't changed by the state. What we did was come up with the temporary use permit. So really, the only thing we came up with was trying to create a situation for people to have up to 3 on their property once or twice a year. I forget the exact number. I think it says once per year up there. And to allow, like Max just said, if there's a special, one-time special event, that we can still get them in. So there's 3 paths. The very most common one is going to be number 1.
Right.
Number 2 is just trying to help people out.
Thank you for the clarification.
I have one more question, please. Is it required that the license, registration, insurance be visible for everyone to see as well as the rating? Is that a state requirement?
I do not know off the top of my head, but I do believe so. Also, our office would have a copy of those on record with their letter of location compliance as part of their packet to get that letter. We ask that they turn in those items. So hopefully, yes, it'd be displayed in window and also a record kept at our office.
Okay. Could we add that they display it somewhere on
Yes,
their
ma'am.
truck? Because
Absolutely.
it's been times that you ask and they have to go get it, and when it's a lot of people, you don't know what you're looking at, if it's true or not, so.
And one more comment. With regard to the distance we were throwing out there, 500 to 100 to 50, whatever.
Yes, sir.
when you bring this back to us, could you give us a general idea? We kind of know where most of these guys are working
Right.
every day. And could you give us an impact, at 500 feet, how many of those guys are going to be out of business?
Sure. We can make some
you'll know where the
maps.
restaurants are, you'll, just so we have factual information to know, to make a decision.
Yeah,
Planners-
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Planners love
Yeah,
this
like
stuff.
500
We-
feet, maybe 250.
Or whatever the
Yeah.
distance.
Right.
I just want to know how it's going to impact the individuals that are.
Planners love this stuff. We call it windshield surveys. We get to go out and mark where everything is, come back, put it on a map, and present it. Yeah, we're all in with it.
I know there's some guys that just appear somewhere, but I'm talking about those ones that
The
are
ones that are permitted,
always there.
we will put on a map. The ones that come in and just show up, which a number of them
won't know.
do,
I
we
get
won't
it.
know.
Yeah.
But I like the suggestion of making sure that they are posted, because we tell them you need to have this available if someone from the city comes in.
Any last-minute public comments? Seeing none, we'll close that. Any last-minute commission comments? Thank you, Max and Van Allen, for your presentation. It was very well, and staff, thank you. This will lay over till our June 23rd meeting. All right. Let me go back to my item. Would someone please introduce 6C1?
Reduce, has to be read by title only.
Resolution of the City Commission of the City of Leesburg, Florida, relating to the provision of fire protection services, facilities, and programs in the City of Leesburg, Florida, imposing fire protection assessment against assessed property located within the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2025, approving the rate of assessment, approving the assessment roll, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Second. A motion and a second. Al?
Yeah, I'll give a quick update on this. So this is our annual fire assessment fee resolution. This is a little bit like the trim process at this stage, but we do it slightly different. But so we are recommending that the fire assessment fee for next year be set at $170 per ERU. We are at $165 this year. So this resolution would promulgate a 3% increase in the fire assessment fees. And so that's all classifications. So we break it down in the resolution. The primary fire assessment fee that collects most of the revenue is the ERU, equivalent residential unit, 100. And then we have square footage rates based on what type of use you are, commercial, industrial, so on and so forth, with the same exemptions that we've had in previous years. I bring this to your attention because what this resolution does is it notifies the public. It gets the fire assessment fee on your trim notice. Voting for yes for this is a more of a notice thing. It doesn't commit at this stage that it's going to be 170. However, it can't go above 170. And then I think in September or August, when we do the remainder of the budget items, then we adopt another resolution that formally sets this. It's difficult timing in reference to this type of thing. When we promulgated the fire assessment fee in the past, we had long meetings about the initial inception of it, which was 8-9 years ago. I don't think we increased the fire assessment fee for the first several years we had. We did a couple of years ago. We increased it to I can't remember what level it was. I can tell you at this rate we're still one of the lower fire assessment fees. But I'd be remiss to tell you that we have a difficult budget year coming up. The drafts will be shared publicly with you all here shortly. We have our workshops coming up in July. I don't remember the dates off the top of my head, but all our workshops are the first 2 weeks of August or July. So by the middle of July, you'll have the budget in full. At this stage in the process, the difficult part of the budget is this increase, the 3% increase for the fire assessment fee. We are probably looking at keeping the millage rate the same, which is technically a tax increase. But we're also looking at probably a series of user fees on our utility side of the house, from electric, water, gas, sewer, and most of our services at this stage requiring an increase. We recommend at this time that you go ahead and approve the 170 for the purpose of this. If the commission is of the flavor that you don't even want to see an increase, then I would ask that you just amend that 170 to 165.
Any commission discussion?
Yes. So the proposal's to basically increase tax.
Yes.
And the rationale why we need to increase this by 3%?
I think there's a couple of major reasons in there. Obviously, fire and police services are the lion's share of the general fund. We tax at an extremely low level, so the reliance of the fire assessment fee is a primary way that we keep fire assessment fees out of the taxing power of the city, which is the norm for municipal governments and county governments. Most of the revenue for those services these days those services being fire services are done through an assessment. And like all other services, those services have increased. Case in point, this year, the IFF is asking for 12% increases in raises. So these type of things, do you need the fire assessment fee? Yeah, I think you do. I think you need to keep pace with where we're at with inflation, and I think you need to keep pace with the cost of that level of service. Can you go without an increase in fire assessment fees? Now I'm going to sound like an attorney. Yes, you can. If you don't increase this fire assessment fee, you're looking at a delta overall in the general fund of about $120,000. The other ingredient in there is also the villages. I wouldn't want to hang that we're increasing the fire assessment fee because of the villages, but that is a component in there, and that was contemplated when we worked with the villages on the development of Villages of Westlake and the other properties in there. So there is kind of a trip hazard in there, so I'll explain that very briefly. When we brought the villages into the city of Leesburg, we agreed that the villages CDD, Community Development District, would be the promulgator of fire services. In that respect, we are the collector because we're the governmental agency in the district, in that city of Leesburg, that promulgates the fire service fee. So we contractually agreed to collect the fee and then pay that fee to the CDD. For statutory reasons, we could not develop a villages fee and a city fee. So what that dynamic does is the primary thing is the villages has committed to, per our agreement, they started out at $163 per ERU. So this is actually the third year of the engagement of the letter, but they are increasing their fire assessment fee at a specific level. So it was 163, 165, and I think it's going to be the 170 level. If we don't keep pace with that increase, then we are contractually obligated to pay the delta of the fire assessment fee. Meaning, no matter what our fire service fee is, we will still get an invoice from the village's CDD for what their fire service is. Their fire service was modeled on our fire services at the time that we started, at the time they started issuing that. So if they go up 3% and we don't, we have to pay the villages what they do. So there's a delta in there. That delta is the difference of what our fee is and the village's fee times the existing 3,200 units. So that delta's not huge. It's about $16,000. So if you keep your rate at 165, you will still be paying the villages the 170, and then so that delta $5 over the 3,200 homes is at $16,000. Again, you can absorb that this year. I mean, $16,000 isn't going to break the wagon, but over the course of that increase, you will then cut more and more into the general fund, having to pay the delta on the fire services to the villages, and then those general service dollars won't be available for other services, parks, recs, roads, yada, yada, yada. So it is a tangled weave, a tangled web we wove, but at the end of the day, with respect to the villages on that question, we made that assumption based on the amount of tax revenue that would be coming in from the villages, where they weren't sharing the full load of the general fund. Hence, the delta was a question back, 7 years ago, that we felt like this was still a reasonable financial option for the city. So to kind of bring it back full circle, we're recommending the 170. We think it's a reasonable competitive rate, and it continues to isolate those fire services out of the general fund so that those general dollars can be spent in other places.
So the fire assessment fee is paid as part of your property taxes. You're saying the villages can't have a different fire assessment fee they pay than the rest of Leesburg on their tax bill?
I'm going to answer super easy, just not to split hairs, but yes. We have to have a uniform fire tax on the residential side that's equivalent by statutory language and by language we have between the villages and the city.
Okay, so the CDD sets their fire assessment rate?
The CDD sets their fire assessment rate, yes.
Okay, so if we pass a fire assessment rate that is below what the CDD passed theirs, we have to pay the difference, is what you're saying?
Yes.
So, okay, so just to sum it up in a nutshell. So with this scenario, this commission really no longer sets the fire assessment rate. The CDD of the villages now set the fire assessment rate unless we want to eat the difference every year. So they're really setting the fire assessment rate for the whole city of Leesburg.
No.
Well,
no.
Well, in essence, they are. If we're not, we have to pay the difference. If we don't go up to what they wanted to go up to, they are setting the rate.
For 3,200
Correct.
lives, not for the whole.
Well, no, but we have to pay the difference. If they want to go to 170, we want to keep ours at 165, we have to pay the difference of the $5, which is $16,000 this year. And if we want to keep it 165 next year and they want to go to 180, now we have to pay the difference in the $15 per unit. So they are setting the rate. Unless we just want to pay the difference every year, they are setting the rate.
We have that option.
We have the option, but yes, but they are setting the rate unless we're going to come out of the bank every year to make up the difference, so we don't have to penalize our existing citizens and make them pay the difference in their rates, because I am not in agreement of increasing the fire assessment rate this year by 3%. And definitely not in agreement after give the villages $16,000, but you're saying we painted ourselves in a corner here. It's one or the other.
I mean, the only other way, Commissioner, I would argue with you on that is the villages had promulgated to us over $3 million in general revenues that we never would have received but for doing this deal. So we're receiving in over $3 million in additional revenue, which then goes back to subsidize many services that the villagers won't increase for a delta. So we got $3.5 million, and maybe we have to pay $16,000. So in that respect, Commissioner, I would say you can afford to eat the delta. Do I recommend you eat the delta? No, because the other side of the equation is the 165 rate for Leesburg, I think, is low. We're still only collecting about 80% of the total collectible, and our fire assessment fee is competitive in the region. So it's open to interpretation how you would like to interpret who's wagging the dog. At the end of the day, you have options. I think I've explained all the options to you, and we'll move forward from there.
And I remember in budget, we were definitely on one of the lower ones. Do you know the range roughly? I'm not trying to pin you down, just the range.
You can go.
I knew it last July.
Leesburg, with this 3% increase, 170 for a single-family house. Lake County, 400.
And other municipalities were all above us.
All above it. You know, typically in the I'm going to rough house say $250.
Okay, thank you.
If the IFF is asking for a 12% raise, we're going to need additional cash to cover that as well.
You will, and the fire assessment fee is part of that.
And we have to be competitive on the fire industry to keep our guys.
I'm all supporter of police fire. I'm a supporter of all our employees. But as city manager said, the villages are bringing $3 million a year, whatever you said, extra year now.
3+.
Okay, well, I don't know, we need to raise our citizens' fire assessment, take it out of the $3 million the villages are giving us.
I mean, it's basically, it's an inflation adjustment, so it's more than reasonable. I mean, all our costs, you know, salaries alone are going to go up. I'm sure you're going to recommend a 3% increase in salaries if I was a betting man.
What do we budget? 5. We budgeted 5.
Okay. So I'm just saying, we got to keep up.
Well, you do have to keep up, but you're bringing new stuff in, which should cover the difference in the cost. I just don't know we should be raising fees on anybody.
Well, if we were the high, I follow you. I follow your argument. If we were the top of the range, I would be more sympathetic. The fact that we're at the bottom of the range is why it doesn't really bother me at all.
And again, this is a notice type resolution. It doesn't read that way, but the process is we notify, we set this notice out. This becomes part of the trim process, so it's notified on your trim notice, and then you have a final setting. And so, you know, it's a preliminary fire assessment fee, reso.
Any further commission comments? Any public comments? Yes.
I do have one. I just would like to say kudos to Carver Heights and Montclair ribbon cutting that took place on Friday night. I didn't do it in the CRA meeting, but they did their ribbon cutting.
Are you we're not in that
I'm
section.
sorry, I said it was on the end. That's not.
This is for the fire assessment fee.
No comments on the fire assessment fee.
Any public comments? All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call. Oh, sorry.
So is it non-routine, this doesn't have to come back twice? This is just.
No, this is a reso. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I just wanted to make sure.
We can cut it back in budget. This just gives us the ability to go up to 170 in budget.
And it's
correct.
We're setting it at 3%, and we at budget time can say we want to go to 0. But if we don't set it at 3% right now, at budget time we got to stay at whatever we're at.
Yes.
So this is just
Yes, sir. And
somewhat of a kick the can until the budget process by.
Yes, sir, that's right. That's right. And like Mr. Minner said, you know, this is sort of a two-step process. This is the preliminary rate, and this really gets everything on the trim notice. So when everybody gets that, they see what their fire assessment's going to be. And then the annual assessment would come back, I think, in September usually, and set the final rate at that point. But like Al said, you cap yourself basically today with the preliminary rate.
Any last minute commission comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Burry?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Mayor Reesman?
Yes. Moving on to informational reports, we have none. City attorney items?
None this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Yes, sir. City manager items?
None.
None. Roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Nothing.
Commissioner Burry?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Peterson?
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes, I'd like to congratulate West Leesburg, Carver Heights and Montclair CDC for their ribbon cutting ceremony that took place on Friday, June 6th evening. A very nice event. The chamber was there to do the cutting, and just want to give them kudos and thank you.
Mayor Reesman?
I want to give kudos to our rec department. I've received multiple calls and comments about the Dragon Boat event that was held at Ski Beach from participants from all over the state. They thoroughly enjoyed it. They loved the venue. They loved Leesburg, and they hope that we continue and grow that event. So I just want to give kudos to the rec department. And then on Saturday, I attended the 2025 Treasure Coast Canine Competition down in Sebastian. One of our officers, Officer Huser, and Canine Nick, competed in that. There was people from all over the state and out of state competing, and our officer and Canine came in second place in that competition. So huge kudos to them, and hopefully next meeting we can recognize them. But with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion?
Second.
Meeting adjourned.